As an agency owner, it is super important that you're hiring the right talent to help you scale your agency. Likely, you have a whole team of offshore talent that you've collected throughout the years. Some you've brought on right away and they were high performers, and some you thought they were going to do well and they just didn't. Brian O'Connor joins us today from the Talent HQ, where he shares how he can get 2,000 applicants per role that he posts. He shares his plug and play onboarding system and how you can track performance over the first 30, 60, and 90 days to ensure that the talent you bring on is set up for success, aligned with your culture, and they know how to communicate. So they're not just completing a task when they're assigned it, but they're actually thinking about the bigger picture, and they're thinking responsibility and objectives on a business level and not just on a task level. So if you're a seven-figure agency owner and you're hiring offshore talent in this remote cultured world, this is the video for you. And if you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel because we will be sharing more expert insights as we go. Enjoy.
Are there any tricks to what you put in a posting to get the right people?
We write the job description. We literally think of it as an ad, right? Like the intro to the job description plus like the about the company section is your copy, right? And depending on how you phrase the copy, the head person hook in. And so if we're talking about like we want more like a trusted advisor, right? Then we do like a cold shower, ice bath, bro, right?
Yeah.
Right. We basically want to write the intro copy to hook in that type of person. And so what we've done and what we do differently is I think most people just like brain dump what they need, like the tasks they need people to do in the job description. We rephrase it to be like we use like a copywriting framework to say like, are you this type of person, right? Do you get excited by these things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's a landing page. It is exact. If you think of that job description or the job posting as a landing page, not a copy paste dump of the tasks you need to do, you will have way more success. Like when we did this, we now get 2,000 applicants a role, right? And so our number shot up, but then also the quality shot up because the type of person we're hooking in is so different. And so there is a
Mhm.
section where you can just bring up the tasks, and that's kind of in the middle, which is like, here's the things you're going to do, here's what you're responsible for, and here's the values and skill set you need to have, right? But that intro section is your landing page.
Other times that we've had somebody come into the group and talk about hiring for sales, they've made recommendations of doing like a 50-50 base commission. Is that something that you've typically seen when you're looking at, let's say, Argentina and Colombia? And do you have any sort of a wild and crazy range idea as to, what would attract the kind of person that I'm describing?
Yeah, we started that way in terms of attracting folks. But what we realized is, so we're like, hey, we want someone who's hungry, and so they're going to really want incentives, and so we're going to emphasize the incentives, lower base, that kind of stuff, right? What we realized is a lot of the folks would just look at the base and not even think about the incentives. Like they would like the base was the guarantee, the incentives were the icing on the cake. And so if the base was too low, like they wouldn't go for it. And the reason they did that is because like they don't know enough about your product or service yet to trust it, right? Or your systems and that kind of stuff. And so like in theory, if they're an amazing salesperson, they would have the best like boost and like the best incentives. So they would sell really well. That's what I was thinking. But then I realized that because they don't know your product and service yet, they don't trust it as well. And so they don't know how much they can actually get because they could be the best salesperson in the world, but selling a bad product or a bad service means they're still going to only get their base. What I would recommend is what we usually do is when we hire a contractor, we actually start with a 3-month contract, and we say like this is a trial period, right? See if like let's date before we get married. See if we like the process, and then after that period, we're going to add on incentives. And so as long as the when we made the proposal attractive enough without the incentives, and we've started to figure out what a baseline is. Like we gotten benchmarks for like what sales should look like, and they've gotten comfortable with like you have a good product or service that they can actually sell. Um, then we can trigger on incentives from that perspective.
That's interesting. And then what did you find was a good range for base then?
What we usually do is we'll run 2 and 2.5K, and then look at the applicants coming in, and if they're what we expect, we keep it there. If we're like need more applicants faster, we'll jack up the rates. I've seen as high as it depends on the size of the deal and like the level of experience and that kind of
Right.
stuff. But bigger deal size, bigger experience, you're talking three, 3.5. If it's just like what I'm assuming, 2.5 is fine. Make sure that the good person doesn't see your number and avoid it, avoid the post at all. And so it's kind of a game theory problem here.
Yeah.
So if that good person in theory sees it, and goes, it's a number I'd be interested in, then negotiates up, agreed. If that good person goes, that's too low for me to even have that initial conversation, then you might have lost a good person. The lower you go, you will still get a good person. It's just going to take longer to pull in enough people to do that, if that makes sense. I don't know. We do 3 weeks, right? We'll get you a talent less than 3 weeks. And so if you pull in a salesperson that is too low, it might take 6 weeks to get the quality you're looking for, but you'll get it at that rate you want. But if you increase the rates, you get a little faster. That's the only difference. Dan, you're also wrestling with the onboarding stuff. And so I think that's a common thread too. Because I do have a ton of like 30, 60, 90-day plans and like how do you onboard to the business in terms of like values, ways of working, that kind of stuff. Is that any of that helpful to kind of chat through, or
Yep.
JP, you want to focus more on like communication in that front?
No, go for whatever you want. This is all good stuff. There's lots to learn.
Good, good, good. Um, and so what, JP, have you had any challenges on the onboarding front? Like just to make sure I'm like tailoring to you guys. What's been your biggest frustration when it comes to like onboarding or especially with communication, right? Like how do you train folks to communicate?
First, I'm not the best communicator in the world. And so that probably some of this stems from my own expertise in how to, I set expectations up front. This is how we communicate, what I expect, and all that kind of stuff. And even though I can keep pushing and keep pushing, it doesn't. They just it's like they don't pick it up, and they continue on their own normal ways they're used to doing things, not with how we want to do business. And so sometimes that's I can get past that and people eventually grow into it, but it takes a long time. Other times it's just they never they never adapt. And it's like, I've had it, bye, which of course is a very frustrating experience. And so, yeah, onboarding is probably partially leadership, but it's also partially, like I said, it's, these people have habits which they've had for a long time because they're freelancers and contractors. They like working the way they want to work and don't necessarily want to adapt into the way we work and the way we want to
Mhm.
work, the way we feel is a better way of working.
And where are these people hired from, country-wise, mostly?
So mostly Colombia and Poland is
Got
where
it.
I'm finding most of my people. So Eastern Bloc countries.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, that's helpful. I spend most of my time in Colombia, so
I bet.
it's helpful context. Um, cool. Okay, that works. So then, so it sounds like two problems. One is, hey, uh, they don't communicate the way I need them to communicate. One, two is they aren't alerting me of any problems. They aren't problem solving, that kind of stuff.
Correct. Which, that's a normal dev thing. I don't know if that's necessarily an onboarding thing. That's doing better hiring, but conforming, really trying to adapt to, the way we kind of are looking for people to communicate with us and work with us together as a team, as opposed to me just assigning tasks to you, which is what most people seem to prefer, even though they'll give lip service to, oh yeah, man, I'm looking for team and blah, 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 and all this stuff. They don't really adapt to it. And so, um, I don't have there's not a huge, I don't really like have formal onboarding processes or things like we're still small compared to a lot of the other agencies that are in this group. And so, that's part of it. Again, my shoulders. Part of it is that, probably the right hiring. And so I don't know what the right answers are, which is why I wanted to come and listen to this.
Cool. Okay, that's helpful context. So let's start with the second one real quick, the problem solving one. Um, so what we found is that like culturally for LATAM, they see problems differently than we do.
Yeah, hadn't
Um,
thought of that.
and so that's actually a cultural thing,
Hmm.
which is why we handle it during onboarding. The culturally, um, they're more optimistic, and so they'll see things as not problems and try to like color like color it positively to hide, not hide the problems intentionally, but because they're not looking for challenges and problems to like bring up problems and be like, hey, this is an issue.
Hmm.
Whereas, like I don't know, I where I grew up in the States, like it's more like we're problem solving, like we're just problem solvers. That's what we do. It's all we think about.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for problems, and to solve them from that perspective. And so, everyone we bring on, because we know that it's just a cultural thing. We first, like one of the things we talk about, I can even show you our onboarding materials. But one of our under our ways of working section, our values section, we talk about like the only news that can wait. Good news is the only news that can wait. Bad news we have to say now, right? Um, and we call it the Persian messenger syndrome, where you think about the Persian messenger when they come from war and they're like, "Hey, we lost the war. They got kicked into a well." Right? We don't want Persian messengers here. We want everyone to say bad news, and like we're teaching problem solvers. Every employee is a problem solver. And so we do full training sessions just on that
Wow.
and have to consistently emphasize that, like, let us know of problems, tell us problems. We're here to support you. It's us against the problem, not us against each other. Like, it's a cultural thing. We have to like drill, drill,
Hmm.
drill to
Okay.
teach them how to work with a US business, basically.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know for Poland, but for LATAM, that's a thing. You basically have to train them on how to work with a US business, because we culturally do things differently.
Sure. Well, I mean, or I mean, is that the right way? Or is it more that I need to adapt to how they work?
Yeah, I mean, the way I view it, at least for my business, is like I need to know problems. Like problem, like a business is essentially a problem solving thing.
All
Like you
right.
think about it, like
That's what I would
uh,
think, but
yeah, and I mean that's how I view the world. And so if you could find an argument for hiding problems, uh, I'm open to listen to it. But I like to
fair enough.
solve problems.
Okay.
Um, on the communication side, same thing. And so I actually believe that like everybody thinks they're a good communicator. I mean, not everybody thinks they're a good communicator, but like most people think they're a good communicator because they
Hmm.
just have a different definition of what good communication is, right? So, for example, I have a writer who's a great writer, and I'll give her instructions for the day, and then she just like doesn't check Slack all day because she's in deep work, and she sends me one huge Slack message at the end, right? Which is like,
Yes, that
I
sounds
did this,
familiar.
this, this, right? I'm sure devs are the same way, right?
Yeah.
Like at first, I was frustrated with it because I was like, okay, like that's the opposite of how I work, but I kind of need that from that role. And so I was
Hmm.
okay with it. For the other folks, we literally do communication training. So for account managers, people who need a more rapid communication, right? The
Yeah.
difference in depth and frequency in communication, like we train that. And so I literally have, I can show you real quick. I literally have a training on what good communication is for those not call it depth roles, let's call it, for lack of better terms. So this is literally like a communication I run through with my folks, which like 7 ways to communicate, right? Like some things you'd think about when communicating.
Hmm.
Um, and so for example, like silently accepting a task is not an option. Here's the only 5 responses you can have, right? Like, got it, on it, we'll do it, right? Got it, but I got to make this change, right? Got it, but I have a question. Like you have to have a response. You can't just like I send you a Slack and then you just don't respond for all day and just send it back. Send at the end of the day, like send the deliverable back. Like I need to know
Yeah.
you've received the message. I call it like, okay, I caught the ball, you go left, I go right. Right. Um, and so I have like, what does productivity mean? You're not gonna wait. You have to like be proactive and let me know what the updates are. Right.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. Don't be vague in your communication. What are examples of being vague in your communication?
Wow.
Be nuanced in your communication, make things simple, right? The worst thing to do is take a simple thing and make it complex, right? So,
Mhm.
I communicate simply, right? Never just pass information along, always add value to it, right? You have a specific context that you might know things I don't. Don't just pass me information. Like let me give me the context that you have to add value to communication, right? And the last thing is like see around corners, which is basically like if you tell me to do this thing or if you're passing on this information, like what are the downstream impacts of that thing? And so that's just part of the communication training we have as we bring folks on.
That's very smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's invaluable. Yeah, that's huge. I get it.
Yeah. Or the bonus one. This one frustrated me. It's whenever I get frustrated, I read it and like make the training where it's like, if you have, I'm sure you've you send someone a Slack with a few questions, they only answer one part of it. So we train that. It's like if I ask you three questions, I get three answers, not one.
Yeah.
You said that there's a timeline, right, Brian? So when you hire somebody for a role, how long typically are they in like an onboarding with cultural training, communication training, product training? How long are they typically in like an onboarding process before they actually start doing activities that are, generating business results?
Actually, I am such a believer in how important onboarding is that our internal onboarding process is probably 3 to 5x more intensive than clients. Because the clients, it takes a little bit to sell them on the importance of onboarding. And so like
Mm.
we have an onboarding calendar where like they'll have meetings like on this just values, right? And we will go deep into values, just success, right? 30, 60, 90-day plan. Um, and so we do that probably for 2 weeks. Um, but they're still doing things, right? It's not like they'll have like 3 meetings a day, right? I mean, well, day one they have a lot of meetings, right? Um, but a pretty intensive kind of 2 week onboarding period. Week one's more intensive than week two. Um, but the reason we do that is because like I think it's the highest leverage thing you can do. If you're gonna hire someone and they're gonna do something for you every single hour of the day for years, set it up right, and like the returns are insane.
I guess what I'm asking is there a correlation between the revenue or the profitability or the efficiency of an organization? Is there a correlation between the onboarding and that?
More specifically, like whatever you hire the person for, their odds of success are higher, right? So like so I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, we hired someone um for what was the role? Customer success, right? Um, and which is revenue generating and like NPS score, like promoting, right? Like client experience promoting. Um, and I asked the our client, I was like, "Are you good? Like with business with onboarding, what's your onboarding look like? Your good spot?" He's like, "I'm good," which is another way of saying I don't have any onboarding, but I don't really care, right? Um, we hired the person, and they spent one day at the client site, emailed us the next day and said they're out because there's no structure. They quit 24 hours, right? I have another
Wow.
client who same thing, and it's like he ran an education company, um, and fully like I think he spends like I don't know $1,000 a day on ads, right? Um, and he brought someone on to do paid media. And so, kind of like in JP's situation, this person came on and there's a mismatch in expectations and communication. So they probably spent 3 to 4 weeks where the business owner was frustrated, saying like, "Why isn't this person communicating on an hourly basis?" And the talent was like, "I'm filming ads, and so like I'm gonna communicate once every 4 hours, 5 hours. I'm making up, right?" It's not that there was a bad communicator; it's that there's just different expectations. The success in the person's head, right, wasn't conveyed to the talent's head. And so it's just a miscommunication thing. And so we actually what ended up doing was like we ended up saying like, okay, let's actually do a reset here. And we reset the onboarding process, how to re-onboard it, right? Just to like be clear on what success looks like. So you can have a better relationship going forward. Uh, we tripled the number of people who came on, right? And so like that's a lot of like, we have to like manage the culture very carefully, right? And so one thing we want to do is reiterate what the culture is, but at the same time, the company's grown so much and changed so much that like the values and what expectations look like on day one when it was only a few folks at the beginning, it changed. The definition changed a little bit, right? And so we wanted to just like reiterate like what we're looking for and what success looks like from that perspective.
How do you onboard into a role that's never been filled before? I would think that
Okay.
founders have an idea of what the role is, but they've never had anybody to fulfill it. And they just know that there's a big chunk that they need to take off of their plate. And it's too big to hire in like a contractor just to do a couple tasks. So we want to promote from
Yeah.
within, but the role hasn't been fulfilled at all in the company, in the history of the company yet.
Promoting from within has its benefits and poaching from external has its benefits, right? So for example, promoting within is great, as you mentioned, for retention, right? But at the same time, um, there's the Peter principle, which is like you are promoted to the level of your incompetence until you're incompetent, and then you stay, which means you get incompetent people at that level, right? And so, like, how do you kind of find the balance of the two. Well, one is another thing for attention is if someone at your company refers someone in, that referral also stays longer, right? Um, and so that's one method is get people to refer. Another one is like, and I stole this idea from Layla or Mosey. I wish I had more original ideas. Um, is like if you've got a middle management role open, to promote the role both internally and externally, right? As if it's a new open role. And the reason you're doing that is because, like, okay, the difference between an account manager and a pod leader is a completely different skill set, right? It's got a management skill set, different KPIs. We talked about this a second ago. And so if you promote that externally as someone who can handle that management, has management experience, and you promote that internally, and then you just look at the what you need. You look at the KPIs, you need the experience you need, all that kind of stuff. And then you just look at your pool of applicants, which includes internal and external, and say who's the best fit for that role, right? Because if you want to promote from within, you may hit that Peter principle issue where you take someone and make them incompetent. They were good at their old job, now they suck at this new management job, right? So it's a trade-off. I don't think there's one strong answer, whether you want to prioritize retention and promoting from within, or potentially rising someone until they're incompetent. Or you can train someone within if they learn quickly, but it's a risk for sure.
We want to promote and we want to give opportunities for our internal employees and we want to reward them for being loyal and doing great work with us. But at the same time, yeah, like you said, there's probably other people who do have experience in that role, and we'd rather just take them there so they have some sort of a foundation to hit the ground running.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's probably a safer bet, honestly.
Yeah.
Like find someone who has that experience. Uh, like I guess the question is like, do you want someone with that experience to learn your business, or do you want someone who knows your business to learn that experience?
Finding people is easy. Okay. Finding people so a lot of my people I'm pulling in are developers or ad managers or copywriters. Those are my kind of my top three. Now, devs are probably the most important to me. Okay. Um, these people are terrible at communicating themselves. They've been in the contracting world, freelancing for so long, they're used to being a tool rather
Hmm.
than a team member. So they're not necessarily overly responsive, even though they're good at their work. You've really got to push them. Got to keep a few around long term. And so it's these offshore people that I'm trying to onboard, and they're so used to the one environment that trying to make this transition is challenging. Um, because and they're just terrible at communicating for one, which is part of what we need. Even though this is, oh yeah, no problem communicating, and we try and hire to that, but it's still challenging nonetheless.
Hmm. Got it. Okay. So then is the biggest challenge then like how to help
I'd turn
devs?
contractors into team members, really, is probably what it comes down to.
Yeah.
That they're passionate about what we do, and so that
Hmm.
I can enable them to become more and more successful in their own journeys, which means they're going to be more successful with what they're doing with us.
Yeah, got it, got it, got it. Okay. And so that one example of that is communication, right? They
A
don't care
big
enough to
part of it,
communicate.
yeah, yeah, they're used
Yeah.
to just taking orders and getting it done. And and I try and hire people that are capable of thinking out of the box, and then communicating. What about this? What about this? I need have this problem. I need your help on this. They're just used to get it done. Done. Okay, next. That's
Mm,
not what I need. But there's a lot, but they're good at what they do. But they're so used to that as the work style that changing them into more thinking more of it as being a part of the team is hard. That's what I've run into now mostly.
got it. And so would you say that's probably communication frequency? Like, hey, heads up, I hit this problem, or like communicating more often from that perspective?
Communicating more often, yes, absolutely, and coming for help.
Okay. Um, so on the sales front, for closing, so I'm focused on Latin America, but I've heard really good things about South Africa for closing.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah. Um, and so we've hired one from there. And like, but I focus more on LATAM. But overall, I've heard some good things about South Africa. But that's more word of mouth, not from my experience per se. On my experience side, I've had good experience with Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina on both setters
Perfect.
and closers. I have two setters myself, one from Mexico, one from Ecuador. And so on the setter side, I think like I've had awesome setter from Uruguay and awesome one from Colombia. Um, I think the setter skill set is a little more dispersed. Like you can find them Colombia, Argentina, Mexico. I found one in Uruguay. I don't know if that's a hub or not, but I've had success there. Yeah, I think Colombia is a great hub. Argentina is a great hub. We've had a lot of success there. Um, and then I've had some success in Mexico, but I think the best ones for me have been Colombia and Argentina.